Hello, and welcome back to another episode on Advanced Apple Music. Had a few questions come up on what my setup looks like for new music and how I organize that, so I figured I'd just walk you through some of the different things I do to keep track of new music that makes it my way. To kick things off, I actually use a companion app that I recommend to anyone who will listen. It's called Music Harbor. That's what I've got pulled up right here. And what this app does is it actually scans your entire music library and then will track any releases that come out each week from your artists. Now, if you throw them a couple bucks, you can have it filtered down. So I have it filtered to just show EPs and full-length albums instead of singles. I generally don't track singles, as I'd rather have the full album when it comes out, though I generally bump into singles in other ways. So anyway, I digress. So what I'll do each week on Friday, my favorite day of the week for this reason exactly, is I'll go through what the new releases are that are albums from my library. So we'll start with like Donovan Woods over here. If I hold down on that one, you can add to library directly from this. I've had mixed success with that. So I usually just click on play on Apple Music and it'll pull the album right up. And I can add that to my library up at the top right there. Then I'll head back to Music Harbor here and we'll see what else looks interesting to me. I generally don't necessarily take every single album from every artist that I've got, but I usually try and shoot for somewhere around 4 to 6 albums is around what I normally do. So we'll take a look at Little Boots and pop back over here. Absolutely love Era, so obviously I'm going to finish this one off. I think I already have a few of these songs in my library, so this has kind of a compilation feel to it, but I'll still add it and filter my way through that, and I'll show you how I do that. Let's get Charlie XCX here, and we will also get Hot Water Music. So a nice mix of different albums, different types of music here to listen to. So that's how I use Music Harbor each week to track what new music I'm going to be listening to. Obviously I run into music in other ways as well, with people sending it to me or things like that. But you can see this is what last week's looked like. So there's a lot of albums to choose from as you scroll down here. Now part of that's because my music library is pushing 15, 20,000 songs, but even if you're at 10,000 songs, you should still get a pretty good mix of music that's showing up your way. I also subscribe to the email blast every Friday from allmusic.com, and that'll show me pretty much all notable albums, whether they're in my library or not. So another way that I can run into some new music. Now, once I've added all the albums that look interesting to me, they're actually going to show up in a smart playlist I have set up called Found Sounds Future. The rules for this are simple. It's just any songs in my library that are not loved and not rated. If you want to see what that looks like on the desktop to get it set up, I have my first video goes over how I get that set up. But here's what the playlist looks like in Apple Music. It's nothing special. It's just a playlist of songs, and you can see here's the new ones that I added right here, down at the bottom. Back here are a couple albums that I wanted to go through that I haven't listened to for one reason or another. So this basically is where everything ends up that I add to my home screen and haven't rated in some way. Now, this is nothing special. It's just a playlist of songs. However, the Marvis app is what really takes this to the next level. So if I head over into the Marvis app, I can go to my home screen here, and then I have a section down here for my main playlists. And you can see here that everything is displayed as an album. And I think it's important to know that you don't necessarily need the smart playlist to do this. Marvis can set up a section for albums that is loved and there's no rating on them. But the downside I found is that those sections will show all songs, even the ones you've already listened to. So by using the smart playlist as a backend, if I've made it halfway through an album, only the other half I need to listen to will show up in this section right here. So like the Black Keys right here, I've listened to half of that yesterday, and you can see that I've kind of rated it, went through songs 1 through 6, and I have 7 through 11 left to do. There's a show complete album button on the bottom here, so I can see, okay, I do have all those in my library. There's no add button on here. So I really, really like that from just keeping focused on getting through what my new music setup is. So as you can see, basically my Found Sounds Future playlist ends up as a inbox of sorts. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Getting Things Done method, or GTD, but what it really stresses is that for organization, you want a place to just dump things so you don't have to think about them or remember them until you're ready to go through them. So I use it in my personal life too for my to-do list. I have an inbox and it's just, oh shoot, I need to take care of this at some point. So boom, I'll type it up, throw it in my inbox, and then once a week I'll go through my inbox, sometimes more, and I'll organize it with a date. I'll put it into a category, stuff like that. So this works the same way, except with music. So what it means is if a friend recommends an album, or I remember that there's an earlier album I want to check out, I'm able to very easily just click on the add button, have it be stored here, and I don't have to waste memory or some sort of organizational way to keep track of where that is. I just know that when I'm ready to sit down and listen to some music and absorb it, it's all going to be in this section right here. So these actions take place during the week, with my Music Harbor review happening on Fridays. So during the week, if I remember albums such as Black Keys or Architects, I just add it. Then on Fridays, I have the big dump from Music Harbor and add a bunch more, and I'm left with this. So this is essentially what I need to process to get into some of my other smart playlists and things like that. So then what I usually do is on Monday or Tuesday, that's my music listening time frame, and I'll go through and listen to all my new music on those 2 days. It kind of softens the new week a little bit for me. For most albums, what I'll do is I'll pop the album open and I'll start playing a song, and I'll actually skip through it at various points, and just get a feel for what the song sounds like. This probably sounds horrific to some music listeners, I'm sure, but for me, I don't have the time to totally focus in on 210 minutes worth of music. And I found that if I'm not 100% focused while going through the new music, I'll generally space out and forget to rate songs. I'll let songs kind of pass me by. So just asking that you don't judge me, but that's how I get music that I really like into my system of different playlists and sections and things like that. I'll generally get a feel for a song, end up listening to a total of 30 to 60 seconds of it, and usually I've had pretty good success. I've had very few times where I've later felt like, shoot, I should have, or I misrated that, or didn't really get that. If I am listening to an album that I really like a lot, I will listen to the full thing, like the Black Keys, probably one of my favorite bands of all time. I will go through and sit down and listen to that album, but like I said, I don't have the time or the focus to be able to do that for every album that comes my way. I've mentioned this on a previous video, but as I'm going through, I'll use Marvis's awesome play controls to hit love on anything that's good enough for my song mixes. So if I pull up this screen, this is a super old song from back in my college days, but I've got that heart button on the right here, and that's what I use to basically catch anything that's good enough to show up into my mixes. And then if a song is really good, I will hold down. I have this set up as a shortcut, but I'll hold down on the album cover and go over here, and then I can click on rate song, and I'll do 4 or whatever. But for the vast majority of my songs, they're going to end up as 3 stars, and I will just tap on that. Just as a quick reminder for my system, 3 stars is anything good enough to show up in my mixes, 4 stars are best songs of the year, and 5 stars are best all time. I really don't mess around with 1 star. Sometimes I'll use it to remember to delete a song, and I'll show you what I do with 2 stars in just a bit. Once all my new music is listened to, it's time to do a few administrative tasks. So the first parts of these are going to be done on my computer, actually. And what I'm going to do is initially start out by heading to my playlist that I have set up that shows all the songs that I've loved but haven't rated. So I talked before about how much easier it is in Marvis Pro to just be able to hit that heart button and have something done with that music. And so this is where that music goes when I do that, and I don't rate it. If I were to individually rate each of these songs through Marvis, I'd have to heart it. Then I'd have to hold down on the song, go over to the Apple Music app, hit another tap, click on rating, and choose 3 stars. In this case, since I've hit that heart button, which took 2 seconds, the songs show up here, and then once a week, I'll just go ahead and click on the first one and the last one, and I will just easily rate them all 3 stars. So that makes my life a lot easier. I've got the reverse set up too, playlists that are rated 3 but not loved. This usually comes from listening to older songs that I've decided are actually good, and I was kind of a jerk back in the day for only rating them 2 stars. So I'll just take each of these and heart them. And then what I'm going to do from here is actually head over to
a playlist that just has all of my recently added songs. So not any filters other than just this is the most recent stuff that I've had. And there's a couple things that I'm going to do in here. So first, I'm going to clean up any genres. I really don't like the way that Apple Music typically does these, so I put these into my own genres that make sense to me. These ones I just listened to recently, so I know off the top of my head. Those look good. That looks good. Those ones are all over the place. And what I'm trying to do here is make sure that these songs all show up in the places where I want them to. So that's what my main focus is by going through and fixing all these genres like this. So we'll just got a couple more. Indie folk there. I'll put Architects under, and I don't know if you guys have the same bug where in Apple Music it jumps around like that. It drives me crazy. And so you can see that like most of the genres I choose are these big chunky genres. I've got, a little bit of distinction in the indie world with folk and electronica, and I have regular indie and alternative. But that's it for kind of the more alternative music. I just lump anything heavy into metal or hard rock. And then pop is also a super broad one. I've got dance. I do like to specify punk and pop punk a little bit. Blues rock, some rap. Latin is just kind of a all-encompassing category as well. So I found that by um, keeping these genres pretty broad, it still gives me the tools I need to have them show up in certain places, but without spending too much of my time trying to figure out what is the right genre. So one question I've had a lot is, what do you do with songs that are either average or that you don't like? And I've kind of written out some of those responses on prior videos, but now I can actually show you what that looks like. So what I'll do is I'll essentially eyeball a video. So I've got Hot Water Music's album right here. And you can see that there's only 2 songs in there that I don't like, or not necessarily that I don't like, but that were meh. So because so much of the album is good, I don't mind if these songs show up when I'm listening to it all the way through. I don't have a lot of periods of whatever. So I'll just rate those songs 2 stars, and the album will stay in my library as a complete album. This one's a little trickier. So Charlie XCX, I've got some songs I loved, even more so than most of the Hot Water Music songs, but more songs in the middle here that are meh. This one's right on the border. 5 songs, I would delete these for sure, no question. Since it's 4 songs, and then some songs on the album are super high up, I'll initially just rate these 2 stars. If that starts to annoy me over time, then I'll go ahead and delete those. But that one is right on one of those borderline cases. That one's pretty tough. Little Boots, I only liked 4 songs off this one, so I'm just going to delete these. So we got a little bit of everything going on here. And then my boy Donovan Woods, I liked 3 out of the 5 songs, so we'll keep his album together as well, rating those 2 stars. And then Architects, diving back into their back catalog, not as much up my alley as their newer stuff, so I'm actually going to delete the unrated songs because there's so many of them in here. All right, and then Black Keys are amazing. So I'm going to keep those 2 songs that were just okay. All right. So then the way that I can check this is I can go into my Found Sounds feature playlist and it's empty, which means that I have listened to or I have rated everything that's been added in here. Gone ahead and cleaned up all the genres, so everything should fit into my various radios and playlists and things like that, or song mixes. So that's what I'm going to be taking care of on the computer. And then I've got just a couple more administrative tasks. I'm going to bounce back over to my iPad and show you what those look like over there. Once everything is cleaned up in iTunes from my computer, now my album ratings in Marvis are all accurate. And you can really see, I just jumped over, it's probably about 45 seconds after I finished that computer video, and all of my albums have been updated with the new ratings here based on what I just did on the computer. I wish that Songplay is updated that quickly because it shows that they have the technology to transfer this information back and forth really easily. It just, for some reason, this works super well and that does not work at the same speed. So anyway, my last few things that I do over here is I'm actually going to go into this recent album section. I'm going to tap on the section heading, and then I'm going to tap on this top left date added. And you can see here it shows 50 albums, about a day's worth of music. I'm going to click on add to playlist, and I'm going to go down to utilities and add those to my albums playlist. And it takes a little bit because there's so many songs on there. You can see it added 76 songs. So that's how I can essentially get all of my albums into one big playlist. And I do have some filters for that playlist that sometimes I use to just make sure that I'm surfacing songs that aren't in albums, as well as, the times when I scroll through all my albums. So that's one thing that I do. And then if I scroll down, I have a downloaded albums section right here. And this is essentially set up with a filter for any albums that have a rating, for me, of more than 3.1. So that's where this goes. And then I'm going to do essentially the same thing. I'm going to tap on this 236 albums in the top left. I'm going to click on add to playlist, go down to utilities and downloaded phone albums. Added 37 songs. So it's probably been a little while since I've done that. And then what this does is that playlist in the background is going to be downloaded. So it's automatically downloaded on both my phone and my iPad. So if I am in a situation with no service, I have this mirrored with a background playlist, and it will make sure that I can listen to everything that's in this section, regardless of whether I have internet service or not. So it's really convenient for those times when I'm on a flight or something else like that. And that's essentially what I do on a weekly basis to organize new music coming into my library. Definitely may not work for everyone based on how you have things set up, but there may be a thing or two in there that can help you come up with some of your own processes and just make things super efficient for you. If you do have any questions or anything you'd like me to take a look at, please definitely hit me up in the comments. Definitely feel free to reach out to anyone in the community over on the Marvis app subreddit as well. But I really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.